me as the director, and I'm just very, very grateful. So I'm going to say thank you to Phoenix Comic-Con for having us again. Now, the film is about a young couple named Annie and Neil Curtis, and they do this found footage documentary. She's a documentarian, and they inadvertently capture a parallel version of themselves and on the footage. Now, over time, it's like found footage, then it becomes science fiction because we have Robert Picardo of Star Trek Voyager, so he's in the film. And then it becomes pure horror. And the horror aspect is why we also won the Best Sci-Fi Feature at FanFest Horror Film Festival a couple weeks ago. So, this is a surreal award. Now, when we're doing this film, in the script, it called for a video of various people who've seen testimonials, I guess, of people who've seen parallel universes. So what I did with Chris Winters here is we created a montage of videos, and we had, 35 people from all over the world actually shoot these videos. And then based on that, Eric here is like, look, you could do something with this universe here, because Eric is the comic book aficionado here. And what I was thinking was, this is very interesting because we can maybe franchise this. So it's called Transmedia. And I was very curious about that. And I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. And at first it was just like this hearsay, but then he's like, I know this wonderful artist, Dave B. And Dave here could draw this for us. I'm like, okay, sure, okay, that sounds great. And and what we did is we did an Indiegogo campaign, and we ended up raising 225% of what we wanted. And I was just like, okay. Then it was, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So because I knew my own film, I did a comic book for the tie-in. It's a tie-in. It's not an actual rendition of the film. So it takes place during Acts 1 and 2 of the feature film. So I had to kind of like balance not spoiling the film, but not spoiling the comic book at the same time. So that's why I wrote it, pretty much out of necessity, I guess. And, now we're here, and we're ready to unveil it. So here we are. That's it. Oh, and by the way, if anybody wants to see the film, we are playing at Stanley's. It used to be called Kamikaze, but now they changed the name to the Los Angeles Comic Book Convention. And Robert Picardo will be there at that event. Hey, and that's next Saturday at 10 in the morning. So if anybody wants to see the film.
And I'll go see what the mouse is all about.
We're currently trying to get the trailer to run on this laptop, but in the meantime, for those of you that haven't seen, we have candy up here since this is a celebration of the release of the Occupants comic books. We're trying to celebrate a little, so if you haven't gotten candy already, come up to the front while we're trying to get through some of these little technical difficulties, and we'll have the time. Yeah, yeah.
So, just to continue on, yes, occupantsthemovie.com, and if you look on here, Dave is bringing it up. That's our official website. Occupantsthemovie.com. There was no internet connection. It must be the parallel universe is glitching us over here. Well, Eric, why don't you talk for a while I bring up the video?
All right. So as Russell was saying, I actually was involved with the film production as an associate producer, and I also did some of the behind-the-scenes camera work. That was my primary job on set. And as we were trying to figure out ways to promote this movie, since I am one of the producers on it, I noticed that we were getting accepted into a lot of sci-fi and comic conventions, much more so than traditional film festivals. So that's one of the reasons that I said to Russell, I think that to have a better end, especially since we're doing well with those types of events to begin with, it would make a lot of sense for us to do a comic book, because we're going to a lot of comic conventions anyway. And it turned out, the way that things went through the Indiegogo campaign, that it's actually become like one of our primary marketing budget, essentially, because we made over double the amount that we needed to print and actually produce the book. So we've been able to do things like go to these events all over. I mean, Russell's been to Maryland and Florida and all over the place. Toronto, yeah, we've actually gone to international events now. And so it's kind of interesting because in a lot of ways, this comic book is about as traditional a tie-in for a movie as you can get, because if you know the history of comic book adaptions, primarily they're just a way to market and make additional revenue for the main project. You know, you think of Star Wars or G.I. Joe, that's what I grew up on. I grew up on G.I. Joe and Transformer comic books, much more so than superhero comics, actually. And it's just another way for them to make money and advertise their product. And in a very real way, that's what our book is doing. At the same time, I think it's a really compelling story, and we really widen the world because the film takes place in one location in a house, and it's a pretty small cast. But with the comic book, we're able to really open that up. And Chris, I think you had some ideas about that too, as far as opening up the world. I mean, we talked about the possibility of a web series and things like that. There have been people that have been telling us we need to do a series, but specifically your character, that was one of the things like, well, who is this? What is PRI? You know, we obviously have shown in the film that there's more than one person because there's Dr. Peterson, but he's on screen in the movie as the spokesman for Peterson Research Institute. So, you want to talk about that a little bit, about like the widening of the world and that kind of idea that we had?
Yeah, I remember talking to Russ, and when I seen countless times of the post-production and in-production stuff, I told Russ, I said, oh man, I can create this whole backstory behind the whole thing. But when you were mentioning like the past characters and the expansive part of it, I think the brains from just different people got together, and that's when the cases came about and said, hey, let's make backstories of, you had the film and you could do feature films with different cases, but at the same time, you can also do comic books on the expansive of the cases that behind the company and everything else, because there's probably exposure behind the company, what's the agenda behind it, and so forth. And, you know, the characters, you can go in different directions. And, you know, with this being said, I mean, this one story, you know, because it's dealing with the parallel universe and alternate reality, it could be like, it's infinity stories, you know, you can go in different directions. And I was telling Russ, I said, well, don't bring a lot of time warp stuff into it, I don't care for that. But yeah, it's, like I said, you know, just a personal opinion, when I was watching the movie, I said, well, you know, when I was watching the movie, I actually created my own backstory. It probably won't get into the, you know, aftermath, but I had my own backstory I created because I'm working on a novel too. It's a science fiction novel, but my next novel is going to be science fiction in parallel universe. So it's just like there's expansive stories that you can write. It's just, it's amazing what you can do with this right here.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that as far as like, in the movie itself, if you've seen it, you can see the PRI video. There's a little bit of it in the movie. It's a kind of movie within a movie. There is an entire PRI movie. There's a couple people in this room that have actually seen it. It's about 20 minutes long. So that was one of the big things to be the basis of the comic book as well. And actually, Tim, I think you can talk about that too with the testimonials and how we tried to expand the character, particularly yours. Because we took your character, we expanded him quite a bit from the PRI video.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I am a Los Angeles-based university and community college faculty member. I teach adjunct courses I've taught at Cal State Northridge and at Santa Monica College. And so I came on board initially to do some voice work for the Occupants film. And as these gentlemen had these ideas as they're creating this transmedia world, which I've talked extensively about with Russ, he talked to me about doing these testimonial videos, and he came to my office and we just shot a testimonial video. It was me in my office and just talking about life as a instructor and seeing a parallel universe, or what I'm assuming to be a parallel universe on the screen. And from there, just filming that testimonial video and the other testimonial videos that were filmed, they expanded upon that, and hence came the idea for the comic book and all the other great things that are coming down the line. So that is really how I got involved into this project, and it's great because I've talked again extensively with Russ about how Hollywood is changing, and transmedia is really the wave of the future, and especially in the digital world, with all of the avenues for fans being able to access media and content. So you really want to create a world around an idea, not just one individual film or television show. You want to create a world. So that's what's happening here with Occupants.
And with that, we can finally show the trailer.
Wonderful. Woo!
Okay, so here we go. You can sort of show the trailer. It's not playing. Okay, this is great.
I think he's still running Windows 95 on there.
Murphy's Law, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I think it's as good as this one.
Give me the camera. Pretty neat, huh?
No, but it's not. I'm sorry, people.
Now, why don't we talk a little bit about the comic book itself and the process of you as far as being a letterer.
Sounds like
and then,
something
of
we
course,
would do.
The variant cover that we're doing to it.
Well, the real fun is I'm the only person who's actually seen the entire comic, each and every page, because I'm the guy who does the last part of the work on it, and that's putting the lettering into it. It's a really compelling and cool story. I think if you've seen the movie, or you're just interested in seeing what else they can do with it, this is a really good first step. It's a really compelling side story. They've created a couple really interesting characters with Alan, which is his character, and Nicole. They're almost kind of an X-Files type investigative team, and they're investigating this weird multi-universal paranormal activity that's going on. And you would think with something like that, it might be just a bunch of talking heads, but there's so much action that's going on in this. It's just really, really a well-done book. I would say that even if I hadn't worked on it, and it just so happened at Phoenix Comic-Con, they were there promoting it, and showing it, and that's where they won the cool award. And they happened to see some of my artwork, and were like, hey, we're doing variant covers for it, so this is something they tapped into, and said, would you be willing to do just some headshots of our characters? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm already lettering it, I might as well do some cover work for you, and that worked out really well. It's kind of a fun look for it. How close are we? I mean, when you've got, we were talking earlier today, that's going to be the main cover right there, and if you're not familiar with the comic world, the variant cover is basically something they'll do in shorter runs. So whether or not it'll be more, I'm using my quote hands, valuable down the road, it's just there are going to be fewer of them. Sometimes they'll number them, as far as you said, there might be 50 to 100 made.
That's about it,
Yeah.
It's very, very rare. Your edition's very rare.
There you go. My edition is very rare, so just so people know that. And like they were saying, so often with comic book adaptations, it's just a recreation of the movie. Well, this is not the case. This is something you want to read after you've watched the movie, or maybe even before. I'm not sure which would be the better route to take. But it's not just a note-for-note recreation of the actual movie. It's its own beast. It's its own tie-in, and who knows? It may become something more down the road. There might need to be a sequel or something along those lines. Yeah. Well, don't spoil it. As far as the lettering goes, it's kind of fun. I don't want to bore you too much with lettering. It's really not that exciting, except to other letterers. But part of the fun of it was going off the script. It was interesting to see how much of what was written tied into what Dave drew, and how much I could gear what I needed to put on those pages. Generally, as a letterer, you don't get to veer too much, but there were certain situations where it was like, this guy should be saying something, and it was nice to have the freedom to go and and say, hey, can we have him say this? Is it, there are writers out there who will kill you if you even suggest changing some of their writing. Fortunately, these guys are not those type of guys. So it was a very fun experience. How are our technical difficulties?
We got video, but it's just the audio.
Sounds coming from here.
Yeah, from there, it's hooked up to somewhere else. I know that device.
Huh.
No, it's not. Nope, it's CPU's connection.
So I'll just keep the ball rolling. When do you guys think this will be released? I know we're doing the party for it today.
Yeah.
Because the final inks are going to be put on the final page today, but when's the actual, when can I get my grubby mitts on a copy of this?
So I can answer that. So we're actually, Dave is actually putting the finishing touches on the book right now. That's part of our event, is that we're actually finishing the comic book as we're doing the panel. And so it will be finished by the end of this panel. And we'll be able to have it available digitally, not instantaneously, but virtually instantaneously. We'll be able to have it available digitally almost immediately, where we can at least email some of our backers and people like that, so they'll be able to get a hand on it. And we've already got our everything done with the printer. All we got to do is send them the final file, and it should go into print, and we should be rocking and rolling, and within the next week or two, our printed book should be done. So the first people that are going to get those are obviously our backers, the people that did the pledges and the perks. So they're the first ones that we're going to be getting the book to, the physical copies. And then we will have a small allotment of books that will be left over after that. And we'll probably be taking those books to events. Probably the soonest one that we'll be at is the Tucson Comic Con in November. That one will probably have physical comic books at, and probably the first event that we have them at. But they are a very limited number. So we have talked about that we're probably going to go ahead and use a on-demand printer as well, so that people can get copies, physical copies, in addition to the pledged special Indiegogo editions, if you will. So we're probably going to do on-demand printing, as well as a digital printer like Comixology or something like that, where we'll have them available through Amazon, where people can actually download them that way as well. So we're talking about a couple different platforms, but like I said, digitally, it'll be done by the end of this panel. And then as far as the printing, it'll be about a week or two before those are done, and the first official event where we can publicly have them, other than the backers who already did the pledges, it's going to be at that Tucson Comic Con in November.
I believe you could set up the internet through the good old convention Wi-Fi.
Well, you can see video, but you cannot hear audio. So maybe I can show you and I can narrate this for you. Is that okay?
Well, Russ, we got a tech guy coming, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the steps you had to take to go from the movie to the comic book?
Well, I don't even know what was everybody talking about here. I wasn't even paying attention.
Oh.
I'm trying to deal with this tech issue here. Look, basically it's as I explained before. You have the film, and we did the testimonial videos, and based on the testimonial videos, then it just was step blocking step. I would love to show you the testimonial videos. Unfortunately, there is no sound, so I can't even show you that right now. However, I got my friends like Timothy here, and he got his friends to do it. Chris here, he got his friends to do it. I have my friend John Paul Overy, he got his friends to do it, and I got my friends, and we all shot videos. And these are videos that are from companies like the Philippines, Pakistan, France, Spain, where else do we go? Canada. It's pretty much all over the world. And when you see the film, you actually, you can see these videos. Now, what if you go to the PRI website, which I guess if you have an internet connection, we could bring that up too. It's the PRI-research.info is the website. In the actual website, you can see testimonial videos there. Now, what we have available once we have sound is we're going to have, we'll show you some of these testimonial videos. And there's like a good 20 minutes worth of that. So what we did is, based on that, then I said, okay, what is, of all these cases, and we assigned it on the website, if you look on the website, I assigned different places. And sometimes it's where they shot it. So if it's from the woman in Pakistan, what was her name? Yeah, that's your friend, right? Anyway, so she lives there, and I assigned the same place, Lahore, Pakistan, I think it was called. Yeah, and for other people, I assigned different cases, like my friend who shot in Japan. I'm not Japan here. I assigned as Kobe, Japan, because I lived in Kobe, Japan. Now, Timothy here, I coincidentally assigned him case 285. Of the cases, and his case was in Los Angeles. Now, coincidentally, and at that time I wasn't psychically thinking about this at that time, but at that time, the other case that I assigned to Los Angeles was case 831, which is the feature film. So then what I was thinking is, what can we do, to tie it together? Because I'm thinking if the PRI Institute, which is the Peterson Research Institute, which supposedly put together the feature film, and we wanted to basically extrapolate on that, because in the film itself, you only kind of see the logo, and then you see Robert Picardo's character, who is Dr. Alan Peterson. He runs the Peterson Research Institute. So the comic book, I said, let's just elaborate on that, and let's actually establish that. And if it's in Los Angeles anyway, what other case is in Los Angeles? Case 285, Lee Mitchell's case here. So I'm going, okay, I'm going to tie in Lee Mitchell here. I'm going to tie in the feature film, so there's going to be cameos from Annie and Neil Curtis, which is the main characters. That's Annie Curtis up there by Brianna White. And of course, Picardo is going to be in there. And I'm going, okay, so we have that. Then, I'm going, okay, I want my friend Chris in here, and he's in the film. And so let's establish him as the son of Dr. Alan Peterson. And then I'm saying, okay, we need a female interest, basically. Okay, who could that be? And Eric is your wonderful friend Nicole Morris, and we had Nicole, and these are as Timothy was saying, the models. So they were modeled after these three wonderful people. So they became the trio, of what turns out to be case 285. And so then I'm like, okay, so what else can we do? And I'm thinking, in the film, you see, I can't explain too much, but it has something to do with pizza. And it's in the feature film. So in the feature film, you go with pizza. I'm thinking, okay, because I had some ideas as to what is the actual precursor to what happened with all these parallel universes, which in the feature film is getting worse. And again, I cannot spoil the feature film, but trust me, I hope you will like it, and a lot of people have liked the feature film. So so what happened is I put all that together, and this is why I wrote it as a necessity. I wanted to put